It matches the interface that the traffic comes from, the destination interface that the traffic is heading towards. It also matches the source of the traffic, its IP address, if it belongs to a user or a user group. If it belongs to a specific device, it can be a PC, it can be a smartphone. And when done, when traffic matches your rules, your specific patterns, then the policy takes the security profiles action, which is an intensive process that looks into the payload itself and looks for different patterns to identify the traffic, to look for viruses, to look for anomalies. We will look at IPS and antivirus later on. And then, when all goes well, the policy decides whether to NAT the traffic and whether to log it. Policy is actually a three-step procedure. Let's look at a very simple policy. We will create one now. Now, on our policy, the first part is the part where we look for matching traffic. Let's name our policy. Let's call it full access. And let's decide that we wish to allow any user that sits on a specific LAN. It can be your marketing division LAN, it can be your finance LAN. Each LAN will probably have a different subnet to get out to the internet over the outgoing interface, which is our WAN interface. Our WAN interface is the interface that is connected to our ISP. Now, in terms of source, we will allow any source to get out to the internet. We can also limit it to specific users or different user group. We can create a user or a user group using the plus sign. We can also limit the traffic to a specific device. So if we, for example, want only Linux devices to get out to the internet, we can limit it to a Linux PC. Now, we will not do it. As for destination, we are not limiting. We will let anyone get out to any destination, but we can limit the destination towards a specific address. As for scheduling, we can limit our policy to work on a specific day, on a specific hour, but we will not do it. Anyone can get out to the internet always. And the last part of the first step in our policy procedure is the service. We can limit the service to be HTTP, HTTPS, or any other service, any other protocol that we wish to limit our users, but we will not do it. Users can use just about any protocol, any service. And then we decide on the action. Are we accepting the traffic? Are we denying it? Or maybe we are using it as a learned policy Alert policy is a very specific policy that actually triggers security profiles beneath that no one really knows that it's there, and it learns our traffic and creates a report that we can look into and see users' traffic, most used applications, threats, and so on. The second part is the UTM profiles. We can initiate any UTM profile, any security profile on our policy. And the third part is whether we are enabling NAT. We have seen how NAT works using a NAT overload, IP pools, or maybe central NAT. And then we decide whether we want our policy to be logged with log all sessions or only security events. That's the basics of a simple full access policy. If you enabled Web Application Firewall on your Fortigate, then you need to know of XSS, cross-site scripting, one of the most known and malicious attacks on web servers. More on XSS coming right now. To get more easy setup tips for your Fortigate firewall, subscribe now and don't forget to click on the bell notification and you won't miss anything. When you think of web apps, any web app, in its basic, it is built around three components. That's the very basic. There's HTML, the markup language. There's the programming language which adds interactivity into the page itself. We usually use JavaScript. And there's the CSS, which is responsible for the styling. Now, think of a web app that when a user enters an input into one of the forms fields or any place that a user input is needed, it doesn't sanitize between a pure data, that is text, and a malicious code. Malicious attackers use XSS for different reasons. It can be a harmful reason, such as changing the look and feel of the web app, its background image, or color or type of font, but it can also be used to steal cookies from the user, to grab screenshots of its computer, or to even insert a keylogger that will send any keystroke to a specific URL. There are actually two types of XSS attacks. The first one is reflected XSS. That is XSS attack or malicious script that is reflected on the victim's browser. And the second one is stored XSS, which is the malicious code that is stored in the web app database and is executed every time when the user calls the specific function. Now, what can you do with XSS? Well, just about anything. If you head over to XSS payloads, you can find out different JavaScript payloads that can be inserted as a malicious code on a web app field or form and can be used to capture keystrokes, can be used to take screenshots out of your screen, or even grab images from your webcam. So XSS is pure evil when it is used in the hands of the wrong man. Let's look at how the JavaScript itself looks like. So that's the JavaScript itself. Now, in most of the cases, the JavaScript code also takes the information that it grabs. It can be a screenshot from your computer or even your cookies that are being stolen and sends it to the attacker URL where they can grab it and use it against you. One very known attack is when you use XSS to steal some other user's cookies and then you head over to the same website and pretend to be that user. Five best tips for using your antivirus within your Fortigate. The first one, choose whether to use it in a flow-based mode or a proxy-based mode. You can see that in a flow-based mode, the features are quite limited, but moving into a proxy-based mode, you can see that you have much more options when using antivirus. The second tip, choose your database. There are actually three main databases that you can use within your Fortigate. There's a fourth one, which is a compact database, but you can use the config antivirus settings and set the different database. You can use the default database, the extended database, and in specific Fortigate modules, there's also the extreme database, which actually includes just about any signature. Our third tip is use grayware and heuristics. Now, when you scan using antivirus, the first step is to look for known signatures. The second step is to look for grayware. Grayware is not by definition a malware. It is an unsolicited program that usually downloads to your computer without you ever knowing about it. A good example is an adware. So how do you enable grayware? Again, config antivirus settings, set grayware. Now you can enable or disable. My tip, always make grayware enable. Alright, now for the fourth tip, use heuristics. Now what is heuristic? Heuristics, let's just, alright, let's config antivirus, but this time not settings, but heuristics. Now heuristics is actually an analysis of behavior, the way a file behaves. Now, Fortigate looks for different patterns, and if the file behaves in a suspicious way, you can determine what to do with it. Now you can set mode to pass the suspicious file, you can block the suspicious file, or you can disable the heuristic features. Now, why do you need, or why do you want to disable this feature? Because it adds up much more false positive events. So use it carefully. My fifth tip and the last tip is use hardware acceleration for antivirus scanning. Now, acceleration works only on the flow-based antivirus, not on the proxy one. And Fortigate models that features the NP4 or the NP6 can accelerate the antivirus processing to enhance performance. So use it by typing in your command line config IPS global, set npxl mode and choose none or basic. Basic actually enables the acceleration itself. And the last tip that I have for you guys is don't forget to subscribe to FortiTip. Let me show you the best application control tips for your Fortigate, and we start right now. To get more easy setup tips for your Fortigate firewall, subscribe now and don't forget to click on the bell notification and you won't miss anything. Application control scans your traffic, your network traffic for applications that you wish to control. Now it does so using the IPS, the Intrusion Prevention System engine, and its protocol decoders. Now, the order of the operation is quite significant. The first thing it scans is the application override, that is different signatures. The second thing is filter override, where you can group applications that have the same behavior, such as excessive bandwidth. And the last thing it does is scans for the different categories. So if you wish to block a category such as gaming, and yet you wish to enable a specific game such as the Battlefield game, you can do it. And let's just select the signature. And Fortigate will start by scanning application override. It will see that the Battlefield game is, let's make it allow, let's make it a monitor, in monitor mode. It will allow the game, still it will monitor it, keep logs of it, and then it will look for the filter overrides. Currently we don't have anything in the filter overrides, and then it will look at the categories where it will block any other game. When the IPS engine finds a match to an application, it tells your Fortigate that it found an application ID number. Now, Fortinet keeps a database of some thousands of applications. Each one has its own ID. If you wish to see the different IDs for the different application, you use the CLI, config application list, edit 0, config entries, edit 0, and then set application and a question mark. And now you can scroll between the different applications and their ID. The next tip may seem obvious, but I have seen cases where users created application control sensor and believed that it is globally enabled on any firewall policy. Well, that's not the case. Whenever you create an application sensor, name it, and then use it in your different policies, and the application sensor will be available only through that policy alone. Whenever you as an administrator block an application, don't forget that your users deserve an explanation why that application was blocked. So for an HTTP based application, you can use the replacement. Your users will detect the application, the signatures category, either gaming or devices. You can look up at the hostname of the FortiGate and tell which FortiGate actually blocked the traffic. Now our last tip, which we will include a specific video on it in the coming future, is traffic shaping. You can actually traffic shape any application and allocate guaranteed bandwidth or maximum bandwidth to that specific application. It can be your Netflix or whichever application you use the most. Now you configure a traffic shaper and you configure a traffic shaping policy. That traffic shaping policy can be determined on a specific policy and specific categories such as video and audio, where you can actually select different applications such as the Netflix application.